Hello, and welcome back to Two Therapists Walk Into a Podcast. I'm Robin Green, an LCSW in Tucson, Arizona.
And I'm Stephanie Etzel, an LCSW joining from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Today is episode 53, and this is the C word, codependency, its history, and why it gets complicated. And we are so glad you are here. We're going somewhere that feels necessary and a little overdue.
We are. We're going to be talking about the word itself. Codependency, where it came from, what it was trying to do, and what it's done since, for better and for worse.
And again, each episode in this series is designed to stand on its own, so wherever you're joining us from, welcome. The thread running through all of it is codependency. Not a clinical diagnosis, but a concept that's shaped everything on how we talk about love, need, and relationship for decades.
Today, we're giving it a really honest look.
Let's get it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep.
Before we go anywhere today, just take a breath. And then take another one. And notice where you are right now. What's around you, what your body is doing, whether it's settled or a little restless, or whether there's something it's been carrying today that it hasn't quite put down yet. Whatever brought you to this episode, to us, whether it was a conversation, a label someone handed you, a quiet wondering about yourself, you're allowed to be here with all of it. I think this word has weight, codependency. Even just hearing it might bring something up. A flicker of recognition, a little defensiveness, maybe something that feels uncomfortably familiar. Let's just notice that. You don't have to do anything with it yet. We're going to hold it carefully today. And Stephanie, I want to start with where this all began, because naturally I think that history matters.
As do I. I think before we complicate anything, we need to honor what the word was originally trying to do. Because Melanie Beatty was writing for a real population in real pain. Codependent No More came out in 1986, and it landed hard because it named something people were genuinely living and had no language for. Partners and family members of people with addiction who had organized their entire existence around someone else's chaos, who had lost the thread of themselves so completely that they couldn't tell anymore where the other person ended and they began.
And that naming mattered enormously. I think we can't overstate that. For a lot of people, that book was the first time anyone had pointed at their experience and said, this has a shape. You're not crazy. You're not weak. There's a word for this. And I believe that with that recognition, when you've been living inside something without language for it, or when you've been told over and over that you're the problem, or even that you're too sensitive, maybe that you're imagining it, that recognition can feel like oxygen, like finally being able to take a full breath.
Right. Her model was specific, and it made clinical sense in context. Losing yourself in the identity of the addict. maybe becoming so enmeshed in someone else's crisis that your own needs, your own sense of self, your own life essentially disappeared into theirs. Your moods tracked their moods. Your days were organized around their drinking, their using, their chaos, whatever the behavior was. Your identity became inseparable from managing them. And for the population she was writing for, in that specific moment, that resonated deeply, and for very good reason.
Right, and then the word traveled the way words do, especially words that feel like they finally explain something. It moved out of addiction treatment and into the broader cultural conversation. Self-help sections, women's groups, therapy offices, church basements, dinner tables. And as it traveled, it started getting applied far beyond its original container to anyone who may have prioritized others, to anyone who struggled to say no, to anyone who worried about the people they loved, to anyone whose caring looked like it might be a little too much.
And this is where it gets a little complicated, because the further the word moved from its original context, the more it became a verdict rather than a description. There's a profound difference between those two things. A description says, here's a pattern I'm observing. A verdict says, here's what's wrong with you. And codependency, as it spread, started functioning much more like a verdict.
I like that. And I think that what troubles me most about that, what I've seen really do damage in the work that I've done with my clients, is that verdict, if we're going to keep using that word consistently, landed on the person who's really adapted, who, maybe was labeled the black sheep, who learned to love in a particular way inside a particular system, and who did what made complete sense given what they were working with and what they needed to survive relationally. And the label said, you are the problem. You need to change. Without ever really asking why you got here in the first place, without any curiosity about what you were responding to.
Which is not just unhelpful. It's actually a kind of re-traumatization, because so many of the people who receive that label already carry a deep belief that they are too much, that their needs are a burden, that their love is somehow excessive or pathological. So handing them a clinical sounding word that confirms that belief doesn't open anything. If anything, it just adds another layer of shame on top of what's already there.
And as you and I have discussed, Stephanie, I don't think shame really motivates anyone towards healing the way some people hope it will. I think shame is really punishment dressed up as a map. It points at what's wrong without offering really any way home. It tells you that you're the problem without giving you any real understanding of how you became the problem or what the problem was actually a response to. And people don't heal from shame. They hide from it. They perform around it, and they build elaborate structures to avoid feeling it. And they don't really heal from it without intention. What do you think, Stephanie?
Oh, I 100% agree. And what's changed? I think this shift is one of the most important things that's happened in our field in the last 20 years. Is we've developed so much more spaciousness around these patterns, way more compassion, a genuine trauma lens that insists on asking the why before it names the what. That understands that what looks like codependency from the outside is often, from the inside, a very logical response to an environment that required it. The person who lost themselves in someone else's pain probably learned very early that their own pain wasn't safe to have, that their needs were not welcome, that the way to stay connected, to stay safe, was to make themselves smaller and make the other person okay.
And when you understand that, really understand it and embody it, you get that felt sense of it. That's the whole frame shifting. It stops being about what's wrong with you and starts being about what happened to you and what you needed to learn to survive it. And that is such a different conversation, such a more honest and useful and ultimately healing conversation.
The teaching versus judging distinction matters so much here, because there is a real difference between a clinician who sits down with someone and says, I see this pattern in you and it's problematic, and a clinician who sits down and says, I'm curious about this pattern. Tell me where it comes from. Tell me what it's been doing for you, and tell me what you were navigating when you learned to be this way. One of those conversations opens something, and the other one closes it.
And curiosity, genuine, warm, non-judgmental curiosity is where change actually lives. Not shame, not diagnosis, not a label handed across a desk. Curiosity every time.
Piggybacking off that, for our nervous system nugget today, I want to stay with the shame piece for a minute and get into what it actually does in the body, because I think it's important and I know it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yes, please, because shame isn't just an emotion, it's a full physiological event. It's dorsal vagal. It collapses. It pulls the system down and inward. And the felt experience of it, that hot, sinking, want to disappear feeling, that's the nervous system moving into a kind of shutdown, a protection response. The system decides that the threat is too much and it goes quiet, goes small.
And when someone receives a label like codependent in a shaming way, or receives it at a moment when they're already raw, already questioning themselves, already carrying the weight of a hard relationship, the nervous system responds to that label the same way it responds to any threat. It doesn't say, oh, useful clinical information. Wonderful, let me integrate this. It says, danger. It protects accordingly.
Yes, which means the label itself, the very thing that's supposed to, quote unquote, help someone understand themselves better, can become a barrier to the work, because you cannot do meaningful therapeutic work from inside a shame response. You cannot access curiosity or openness or the willingness to look honestly at yourself when your system is in collapse. That window is just closed.
Right. So this is why the relational quality of how we introduce these ideas matters as much as the content of the ideas themselves. A trauma-informed lens isn't just a framework we apply. It's a way of being with someone that keeps their nervous system regulated enough to stay present with something difficult, to look at something hard without needing to flee it or fight it or freeze in front of it.
There's a concept I come back to a lot in this work, and it's the idea that we can only take in new information. We can only really learn and change and integrate when we feel safe enough to be wrong. When the relationship we're in with a therapist, with a partner, even with ourselves, is regulated enough that being seen doesn't feel like being destroyed.
Shame destroys that safety immediately. The moment someone feels judged, really judged, not just gently challenged, but actually assessed and found lacking, the window closes. The drawbridge goes up, and everything after that is just performance.
Yes, which is why compassion in this work isn't a nicety. It's not the soft option. It's actually the most clinically precise thing that we can offer, because without it, nothing else lands. The most accurate psychoeducation in the world delivered without warmth and safety just becomes another thing that the nervous system has to defend against.
And what we know, what research keeps telling us, and what our bodies already knew, is that people do heal in relationships, in the felt experience of being seen and not destroyed by it, of being known and still held. That's the medicine. That's always been the medicine.
Right? Not the label. Never the label alone.
Nope.
We want to leave you with something to work with today, and we're going to try something a little different this episode.
We talk a lot on this show about noticing what's happening around you. Today, we want to turn that inward, toward your own needs, which, if any of today's conversation is landing, might be territory that feels a little unfamiliar, maybe even a little uncomfortable to visit.
So here's the invitation. Just ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what does everyone else need for you to feel okay, or even not what should I need, maybe what is actually true for me in this moment. What does this body, this nervous system, this person need right now?
It might be rest. It might be water. It might be to move your body, or to sit very still, or to step outside for a minute and feel the air on your face. It might be that you genuinely don't know yet, and that's not a failure. Not knowing what you need is often exactly what brings people into this work. It makes complete sense.
For a lot of people, this question feels almost foreign at first because the attention has lived elsewhere for so long, on other people, on what they need, on reading the room, and managing the relational environment. That turning it back toward yourself can feel really strange, disorienting, like trying to use a muscle that you forgot you had.
I like that description. Notice there might be a voice that says, this is selfish, that your needs are less important, that there are other people to think about first. So we're asking you to just notice that voice. You don't have to argue with it today. Notice it and gently set it aside long enough to ask the question again. What do I need right now?
As cliche as this may sound, you cannot pour from empty. And it's so true. You cannot offer genuine presence, genuine care, or genuine love from a place of total depletion. Knowing what you need isn't a detour from caring for others. It's quite literally the foundation of it.
So just try it. Quietly. Without judgment. What do I need right now? Sit with whatever comes. Let it be true. Before we go, we want to sit with you for just a moment.
Have you ever been told that you love too much?
Or felt like your need for connection was somehow the problem? Like the wanting itself. The basic human longing to be close to someone, to matter to someone, to be held by someone. Was what was wrong with you?
If that's landed anywhere in your history, we see you. And that's not a small thing to carry. It's not the truth about you, even if it was said with great confidence by someone you trusted. Even if it was said by a clinician. Even if it came wrapped in the language of health and healing.
You didn't love too much. You loved in the way you learned to love. In the container you were given. With the map you were handed. And understanding that isn't excusing or bypassing anything. It's just the most honest and most useful place to start.
Right. Stephanie and I have been doing this work long enough to remember when codependency was everywhere. The self-help generation, the books, the groups, the language that felt revolutionary and clarifying, and then over time started to calcify into something harder and less forgiving and a lot less curious.
We did grow up in that era, professionally and personally. We watched the word do good things, and we watched it do harm. We've watched the field find more room, more compassion, more willingness to sit with the why before it reaches for the what. And that shift, we feel it every week. In the room, in the work, and definitely in ourselves.
So if the word has ever landed on you like a verdict, if it ever made you feel more broken than understood, we hope today offered something a little different, a little more room to breathe inside of it.
Don't forget, you're in good company here.
You really are.
And remember, healing isn't linear, and we're here for the ride. This podcast is for educational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for therapy, medical care, or professional advice.
Listening to this podcast or this episode does not create a therapeutic, clinical, or professional relationship with us.
If you're experiencing distress, physical symptoms, or emotional concerns that feel overwhelming, we both encourage you to seek support from a qualified healthcare or mental health professional.
And if you are in immediate danger or need urgent support, please contact local emergency services or a crisis line in your area.